All right, guys, how are you? As promised, I got a little short video here that kind of reviews Act 3 and also provides you with a little help, if you will, for the questions that are due by Tuesday. So let's go ahead and jump right in. Okay, scene 1 of Act 3. It's Banquo has a soliloquy. He's talking to himself, and he says, "Thou hast it all now, Clams, Caldor, all. You're the king now." So remember, the peripetia, the reversal of fortune has happened. So according to Banquo here, how did Macbeth get all that the weird women promised? He played foully for it. So essentially he played most foully for it. He did something bad to get all that they promised. Okay, so at the start of this scene, Macbeth is having a discussion with Banquo after they have a talk, after Banquo's soliloquy. Macbeth says he's talking to Banquo and he invites him somewhere. Where does he invite him? To come to his banquet. Okay. Where's Banquo going? Him and Fleance are off somewhere. Where they're going to be? Banquo's going to be riding his horse. Okay. Number 4, what does Macbeth say has been learned of Malcolm and Donalbain? Okay, so remember, those were Duncan's 2 sons. They fled to England and Ireland, and essentially Macbeth is suggesting that they're lying about their involvement, and so, of course, they must be guilty, right? So they were found in England and Ireland and are lying about their involvement with their father's murder. So who's going riding with Banquo? Fleance. Number 5. Number 6, Macbeth says, "For them, the gracious Duncan, have I murdered." Okay, he has his soliloquy after they leave, and it's almost like, I'm going to be the king, I'm going to wear the crown, but for what? It's worthless. Okay, he goes on and on about how he's going to have the crown, but he's not going to have it for long. So this is who he's murdered them for. What is bothering Macbeth in this soliloquy? Banquo and Fleance. He ended up killing Duncan for them. So he committed the murder to pass the crown on to them. Since his is a fruitless crown, he won't pass it on to anyone. Fleance will be king according to the prophecy. So he's killed Duncan for them. And so, of course, he's mad at them. Number 7, in a previous speech, what did Macbeth try to convince the murderers of? He said that Banquo caused all their problems, or he tried to convince the murderers that. Number 8, what did the murderers say about their own lives and their willingness to do what Macbeth wants them to do? Okay, so essentially he's asking them what kind of people they are. And he uses this really good metaphor, which we're going to talk about. He compares them to dogs. He says, "What are you?" And they say, "We are men, my lord." And he says, "In the catalog, ye go for men." So, yeah, technically you're men. But then he starts describing all the different breeds of dogs. But essentially, what the murderers say about their own lives, they have such bad luck anyway that they can be reckless and do anything to spite the world. So they just don't care, right? Because they're just doing bad to do bad. Number 9, besides Banquo, who else does Macbeth want dead? Well, that's Fleance, right? Hey, scene 2. So here we have Macbeth and Lady Macbeth having a conversation, and this is right before the dinner. Lady Macbeth voices concern about getting what one desires, but not being content. What does she say is safer? Is safer to be. So essentially, Lady Macbeth is suggesting to be dead like Duncan than to live with uncertain joy. So maybe it's safer to be dead, essentially, is what she means by that. Number 11, what reasons did Macbeth give for why Duncan is better off than he? Well, at least Duncan can sleep in life's fitful fever, after life's fitful fever, alliteration. Duncan sleeps well. We'll talk about alliteration once we get into poetry. Nothing bad can hurt him anymore. At least he can rest. Number 12, how does Macbeth instruct Lady Macbeth to act toward Banquo? Pay special attention to him for whatever reason. Number 13, what does Lady Macbeth say that provides comfort to Macbeth? Nature does not give Fleance and Banquo immortality, so they're not going to live forever, and that's a comfort to him. What knowledge is Macbeth talking about? Okay, that he doesn't want her. I'm sorry, number 14, Macbeth says, be innocent of the knowledge. Who is it he's saying to be innocent? He's Lady Macbeth, listen, you helped me once kill somebody. Don't worry about what I'm about to do now. So Lady Macbeth is the one who needs to be innocent. What knowledge is he talking about? He has a plan to kill Banquo and Fleance. Who hired the third murderer? Now we're in scene 3. That was Macbeth. All right, so essentially they are following the murderers in scene three are following Banquo and Fleance, and outside the palace gates, they're kind of just they're not far from the palace. They followed them. The murderers are about number 16, about a mile away from the palace gate. What do most men usually do from this place? Most people will secure their horses and walk the rest of the way to the palace. Number 17, how successful were the murderers in their mission? Well, about half successful, right? They killed Banquo. Fleance got away. Scene 4, what is happening at the beginning of the scene? Here we have Lady Macbeth and Macbeth welcoming everybody to the banquet. Now, the murderer shows up as well, and Macbeth starts talking to him. This is where we have that verbal irony where he says, Banquo's safe. He says, yeah, Fleance got away, and he's like, oh my God, he doesn't want to say dead. And so he uses the exact opposite. He says he's safe. But what is the first thing Macbeth tells the murderer? There is blood on his face. Better outside of Banquo's body than in it. So essentially he's like, there's blood on your face. Wipe your blood off. You're in the middle of a banquet. So what does Macbeth mean when he says, there the serpent lies, the worm that's fled, hath nature that in time will venom breed, no teeth for the present. So here he's talking to the murderer, and he's talking about Fleance. He says Fleance is dead, or he has fled and does no harm now, but just like a snake, when it grows up, it'll get big teeth, and it has venom, right, as it gets older. That's the prophecy that he'll be king. Number 21. Macbeth says that he hopes he can challenge or accuse Banquo of unkindness, that's the answer, rather than pity him for mischance. Okay, directly from the lines there. Number 22. Macbeth says, which of you have done this? And what he's talking about is he's looking in the chair, and there's nobody in it. It's Banquo's seat. Well, actually, Banquo's ghost is in it, but he's the only one that can see him. What is Macbeth referring to when he says done this? Who has made him appear? Who is messing with him? Who is the one that made the ghost show up? Number 23. What does Lady Macbeth say is the problem? She's trying to comfort everybody, and she says, he has fits. It's okay. Macbeth has had fits since he was young. Don't pay him any mind. And she's trying to calm down. She's like, what are you doing? Number 24. Lady Macbeth tells the lords not to do what? Because it enrages Macbeth, and he says, she tells him not to look at him. Don't look at him. Just don't pay him any attention. It'll just make it worse. Ignore him, and it will stop. And she's trying to calm him down. And he's freaking out at this point. Number 25, she tells him to ignore rank and do what? So it got so bad that she has to tell everybody to leave. She says, stand not on the order of your going, but go at once. Because back in the day, they used to have to leave, the higher ranking people would leave first, and then the ones that would, you couldn't be excused unless you were a higher ranking one. But she said, no, just get out, everybody, same time. Number 26, what behavior of Macduff does Macbeth find unnerving? Macduff refuses to come to the banquet, and of course this presents a problem. What he's going to find out later Macduff's doing is he's in England or Ireland. He's going to help Malcolm. Macbeth says, there's not a one of them in his house I keep a servant feed. What does this mean? Pretty much he has spies that are watching everything that Macduff does. Now this is setting up a conflict between Banquo's out of the way, but you got Macduff, right? He's a Thane as well. He's going to help Malcolm, and they're going to try to take the crown from Macbeth. Macbeth has paid Macduff's servants to spy on the Thanes there. Who does Macbeth tell Lady Macbeth he's going to go visit? Well, it says it's time to go back to the Weird Sisters, who's going to get three more prophecies at the Weird Sisters. All right, now, this is a scene where the goddess of witchcraft, Hecate, is just talking to the witches. What does Hecate accuse the Weird Sisters of? Not including her in their plans with Macbeth, so she feels left out, and she's the goddess of witchcraft. Number 30, where does Hecate tell the Weird Sisters to meet her in the morning? The pit of Acheron, which is a hellish place, according to mythology. Number 31, what does Hecate say she'll spend the night planning? She's going to plan a disastrous and fatal end to Macbeth. All right, then we have scene 6, which is the last scene in the act. What is Lennox's thoughts on what's been happening in Scotland? Strange things are going on, like men killing their fathers, and Macbeth is handling it well. So there's a lot of bad stuff since Macbeth has taken over, but Lennox is blind to the fact that Macbeth is causing a lot of this bad stuff, or all of it really, because of the unnatural things he's done. 33, what does Lennox say he has heard about Macduff? In his disgrace by the king, he is in disgrace. Macduff is in disgrace, according to Lennox, because he didn't show up at the banquet. According to the Lord, where is Macduff? He's in England. Okay, him and Malcolm are plotting. And so that's the next thing we'll check out tomorrow when we start looking at Act 4. Okay? So here are your answers again, guys. I know it's a lot of little things to write down, but it shouldn't be too hard. I pretty much gave them to you. Okay? All right, so remember, that's due Tuesday night. All right, guys. Good luck.